I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts.
Well, Wayne, hello again for another episode of The Truth Hurts, and I can't help but notice as soon as I see...
You know what I can't help but notice? And I love the fact that you've gone back to the hat, and I think it's a good choice. Until the mosh kicks in, then stick with the hat while we're doing this, please.
I can't believe
Very off-putting with the shine that comes off your five head.
I can't believe you've hijacked my intro to tell me that in the first.
Oh, I like that.
In the first 30 seconds.
I like the hat.
Well, thank you. But the elephant in the room right now is actually what's going on.
I have put on a little bit actually.
What is going on with your eye?
The eye. Oh well.
You've got a big shiner, and it's you're a bit puffy.
I could. There's so many areas that I could go here, but this show is called The Truth Hurts. So I tell you what, I had a very interesting weekend, and Carter was involved in all of it. My little 4-year-old. So he did Auskick for the first time, right? So, and fair to say, for all those kangaroo supporters out there that are thinking father-son, don't count your chickens just yet. So his first session, albeit it was raining and drizzly and cold, and he didn't want to be there. At all for the first 20 minutes, warmed up a little bit and got going by the end. But as I said, not he's not over the line by any stretch of the imagination. But then got back to Jess's place, and he was his bike. He's got the training wheels still on his bike. I thought, well, it's been a big day. You didn't shine so much at Auskick, but we're ripping the training wheels off, and I ripped them off. And he just jumped on and just rode straight up the road, turned around and came back. So
proud parenting moment.
Very proud parenting moment there. And, yeah, I just couldn't believe how easily he did it. Should have been off long ago.
So that's a great deflection. That's a deflection you've just...
And then, so I'm going to give you multiple choice about
right.
I'm going to give you multiple choice about the eye. So then having a wrestle with Carter copped the knee to the head, or that's A, B, or a phone to the side of the head. C was out on Saturday night, happened to get into a little bit of a scuffle, or D, none of the above. Which one would you take out of all of those?
Oh, geez, that's a really hard question. Knowing you, it's probably none of the above, is it? You sneaky bastard. What have you done?
No, it was just a good knee phone fight. Should have been D. Should have been all of the above. No, it's just a little knock to the side of the head, and I'm fine. I'm a big boy.
From Carter.
I remember I had this happen. Must have been about 3 years ago on Channel 7, and I was on a Wednesday night, and I was coming home from an event, and I fell over and cut the eye. And when I say cut the eye, I probably needed a stitch or two. And I remember I rang Gary O'Keefe, who is a ripper at Channel 7, and I said, Gaz, I've got a problem here. I said, I think I might need some stitches. And the actual eye went black.
Yeah.
Black and blue. And he said, well, nothing untoward, like nothing's going to come out or anything. I said, absolutely no way in the world, unless there's a camera in the street that saw me.
I think I remember this because I asked you during the week. You're like, no, nothing, nothing, mate.
No, it would have been great vision if they had the vision of me just face planting onto the road. But no, so they're very similar to that. Nothing will ever be, will come of it. But it's funny how people look at you when you've got a little bit of a, black eye. It's not really that bad, is it? Is it that bad? It's quite puffy. I'll tell you what, it's a bit sore.
Little puffy on the side. Yeah. Just on Carter, because I know you are a very proud dad, and football's been a big part of your life. Do you think it'll be part of his, and how do you broach that in terms of encouraging him to play or go down his own path with whatever he wants to do?
Yeah, I'm not massively encouraging him into footy. Like I said, he wanted to go to Auskick. It was a choice. He knew some other little kids. He's not officially an Auskick member because he's only 4. You've got to be turning 5, but he's just down there mingling, with the other kids and having a go at it. So it's just a good little introduction. I was hands on, which I the last time,
umpiring or what?
I just got involved and helped the kids.
Not one of those bad parents.
I was showing the kids how to hold the ball properly.
Okay.
So rather than them just coming in and allowing them to kick the ball, I was just showing them a little bit of technique. You can never start too early. So I did. It was, like I said, rainy, drizzly day, but it was actually really good to get involved. But it was a good weekend of footy on the flip side. And I'm changing the subject now because I thought I thought the big game yesterday was a little bit disappointing, and I've been pretty critical about the Blues, haven't I?
Absolutely.
I will say this, other than the difference between the two teams now is the Collingwood's confidence and the Blues' lack of confidence, and it just shines through. And not only in front of goal, they could have been a lot closer. They could have put Collingwood under a lot of pressure if they'd kicked straight in front of goal. And there's probably at least 6 that you should be 65 to 70%. You should be nailing those shots, and they're missing those shots at the moment. So it takes the scoreboard pressure off Collingwood. And Collingwood, well, and I know this has been said a lot by other people, but they are just a really exciting team to watch because no matter where they are, they just take the game on. They surge the ball forward, and I love the way they run and carry. Darcy Moore, the skipper, was huge. Sensational.
10 intercept marks, it was 11, in the end.
11.
It was just revised back. He lost the record.
Oh, so equal record.
Equal record now, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. But
champion data got him.
Yeah, he was very, very solid. And just, I guess he highlights the way they want to start their attack. He marks it and he takes off and uses it so well. So I was very impressed by them. The Blues, on the other hand, long way back. I know they're not that far off in terms of points on the ladder, but in terms of just where they are at with their game and their confidence, it just as Pago used to say, you just can't flick on a switch and the next week you come in confident. So I am worried about where they're at.
There was a word that stuck in my mind after the game in terms of comparing the two teams and the contrast, and that was trust. It was like the Collingwood players, I felt, had absolute trust in their teammates and what they wanted to achieve, and that Carlton just seemed to be second-guessing every move that they were making along the way.
Yeah, the trust that you're talking about is the one where it's kicked into your defence, and you see Darcy Moore and others there, and you just see the positioning that they've got, and you just trust them to win that contest. And sometimes it might be a 2-on-1, but you just know that he's going to get there and get the fist on it. So then you can get on your bike and you're going to where you think the next possession's going to go. I don't think Carlton have that same trust. I mean, Wiedering at the other end isn't
struggling a bit, isn't he?
Isn't in the form. We know that he can play not a similar game to Darcy Moore. But he can play that really strong contested. Yes, that's what I mean. But he's not that dashing player off half back. But certainly in terms of intercept marks. But he's just not that player at the moment. So it's confidence. I no doubt think that if they can somehow, and you get that from the training track, you get that with how you go about it, the way you prepare, and I think for that reason, I said this a couple of weeks ago, I don't think the Blues can play finals this year, unfortunately.
One talking point out of the game was involving Jack Ginnivan. It's something that we've spoken about before. Last year, of course, the AFL...
Disgraceful, the way he's been treated.
The AFL, I guess, altered its adjudication last year in terms of how he was being treated because he was dropping his knees, lifting his arm up to get the tackle to be high. And so he was getting a lot of free kicks. He was getting no free kicks. Now it seems he has altered his play.
He can't get a free kick.
Can't get one at all. No, so
that's graceful. It really is. It's terrible. And for anyone that says that, they're not being biased towards him, I mean, it's there for everyone to see. Even non-Collingwood supporters are sitting there saying, no, this is now not right. And I truly believe that. And talk about not being right. The commentary around Nick Daicos as a little punch to the stomach was horrendous. I've never seen a more biased amount of commentary around a punch to the gut. If that was Toby Green, everyone would have been saying, oh, he's in trouble. Oh, why would he have to do that? He's the captain of the club. And I get it. A kid in his second year, he's Brownlow favourite, golden-haired boy at the moment. And yes, should it be a fine? Yes, and that's what it will be. But why straight away give the commentary the way they did for Nick Daicos, which they would not have given? Imagine even if Jack Ginnivan had done that.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone, there's a number of players
he got hit. He got a gut punch himself from Jai Caldwell a few weeks ago, and Collingwood fans were calling for his head.
Yeah, and if Jordan De Goey did that,
yeah,
that would be, just unnecessary. It's just so funny how people get put in a gun and get treated differently. And that's from not only the umpires, but the commentators. And the bias in that commentary was horrendous.
That was Channel 7 too.
Was it? Well, it was piss poor.
Okay. I went to Essendon and Richmond on Saturday night, the Dreamtime Clash. First game I've been to this year. Essendon, in my opinion, didn't really deserve to win. They weren't the best team.
Just to go back on that before we move on, I'm not suggesting that Nick Daicos gets a week.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting don't water things down for some and then pump things up for others. That's what I meant.
I'll take that on board. I can see you're very, very firm on that. And you've been...
Is it the black eye that's putting you on?
I'm a little bit intimidated at the moment. Bombers won by a point. It was a great finish. It had reminded me of other games that I'd either been to or watched on TV as a supporter. Very early, when I was younger, I went to an Easter Sunday game, Essendon and Carlton. The Bombers won by a point. Zaharakis and Anzac Day, some wins in Perth under James Hird during the supplements saga. That's as an Essendon supporter. What games stick out in your memory, in your lifetime, that you really thought, geez, that was a bloody good win? Is there one in particular?
My absolute favourites, and you're a Bombers man, so you just gave us those two examples. My two favourite games, I reckon, of all time was when Sydney beat Essendon by a point in a prelim, and we were playing them. We were already in the grand final.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that really stands out, probably one of my favourites, and that was 99. And that's when the Blues got the Bombers by a point as well to go into a grand final, of which we were already.
I meant bloody North Melbourne games, you idiot.
So they're the two games that stand out for me.
Yeah, okay.
But they were massive because we were meant to, 1 point separated us playing the Bombers twice in grand finals. Quite incredible. There was one game in 93 where we came from behind. I reckon we were about 20 points behind Essendon at three-quarter time, and we ended up getting up by 10 or so points in 93. So that stands out as a game coming from behind and, that thrill of being out on the ground. But as a spectator, like you were on the weekend and having that thrill, they were the two. Unfortunately, the Bombers on the receiving end.
Speaking of comebacks, did you play in the 69-point comeback game?
No.
You missed that one, did you?
If I wasn't, not the final you're talking about.
No.
Big one.
No, the comeback game.
The comeback.
Greatest comeback of all time.
If I was playing, it wouldn't happen. I was injured or suspended, one or the other, and I was sitting in the coach's box.
Now, we've already spoken about the umpires this week, and I saw a moment in the Giants game against St Kilda yesterday where the umpire was saying, Brent, back 2 metres, Brent, back 2 metres, and the GWS player didn't move. They weren't moving anywhere, and then the umpire gave 50-metre penalty. I felt really bad for him because it's Xavier O'Halloran, so the umpire didn't know his name. He obviously is hearing Brent 2 metres, so he's going, I don't need to go anywhere. It did remind me of something else that I saw on the weekend. Channel 7, actually, your former employer, filed on something you had to say last week about, firepower? Firepower? Yeah, firepower.
It was about Buddy Franklin.
Oh, it was about Buddy. My apologies. Buddy Franklin. Anyway, Wayne Carey is your name, but WANE was the spelling right throughout the article. You are waning a fraction.
Well, they might have been trying to say Wanye. I've been trying to change my name to Wanye for a long time. Talking about Buddy Franklin, I think that, and we saw him play a little bit differently on the weekend, kick the three. But we're talking about finding a way how to lose a game. North Melbourne going over the interchange. Buddy kicked his three, but I like the way he got up the ground a little bit more. And I tend to think, and we wrote an article about this years ago in The Age.
You were just on that. We did get a reader question on this. Yep. Duck, I think I know where you're going. Duck, this is from Luke Harvey. Thoughts on Buddy moving to a wing like Richo? So is this where you're going with this? You think it's a viable option?
Well, we spoke, like I said, we wrote an article about it. So it's a very viable question, and I like it. And I think Buddy would do really well up there because what it does is it doesn't allow people to sit on him, because he doesn't have that turn of speed. We know that his marking has never been great. It's probably, at its lowest point, given his age and all of that. I'm not having a crack, but moving up onto the wing is that he would be able to float down. That would be something for sure that I would try. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't invariably end up forward. Just means that he picks and chooses. I mean, Jeremy Cameron just comes up onto the wing whenever he wants and drifts down. So surely Buddy can do the same.
Absolutely. Well, while we're on the topic of our listeners, I guess we've been asking for your feedback on different shows, and we did say we'd incorporate some of it. This is just a couple that I've got for you, Wayne. So that was Luke Harvey who asked the Buddy question.
No relation?
Who's it? Luke Harvey? To who?
Well, Boomer Harvey, Robert Harvey.
Oh, come on. He does. I reckon if he was Boomer Harvey's mate, we wouldn't be writing into you after what you've said about Boomer recently.
What did I say about Boomer?
Oh, you were talking about him cheating for kicks last week.
No, I didn't say cheating for kicks. I just said he's played a very wide game.
I'm backtracking. I thought this was the truth hurts. Anyway, Billy Jacks said, "Hope I look half as good as you at the end of my 40s, much less in my 50s. This is after your advice involving the moisturiser last week. By the way, as a Mad Geelong supporter, I was there when you tore us apart in that night game final. You and Dermy were the personification of everything a centre-half forward should be. Mainstream media much poorer without you. Thanks for the memories, Duck."
Oh, that's nice. Well, surely they're not all positive.
No, I've got one here from Luke Lewis, actually, on a similar topic about your regime that you use. He said, "When did Botox and a facelift become using moisturiser?"
Well, I did say technology. Who was that said that?
Luke Lewis, that was from.
Luke, good question. No, definitely not a facelift. I can guarantee you that.
But
still
haven't denied Botox.
May have been a little bit of technology involved, which I did say last week. I mean, years ago, that technology wasn't around. Now it is.
But you tiptoed around it, though.
Well, he's right. So not a facelift.
Now, I got a few emails as well from various football people from my past. One from a guy by the name of Ashley Brown. I think he was from, he'd coached in Millicent originally. He came and coached at Latrobe, which is just out of Devonport where I'm from, then East Devonport where I played footy. He was a hard man. He was a good footballer too. He said, "Been loving the truth hurts. Just wondering when you're going to reveal and have a chat about my footy career. You haven't asked me about my career yet, Wayne."
Well, I didn't think our listeners would be all that. well, sorry, Ed. No, we, you know what? We'll do a special. We'll do a special podcast for your football career, which will run for about a minute.
I did write back to Ash that it would be a very short conversation, but just on using him as an example, He was the type of bloke when he was in the opposition. And I was playing against. He would have been late 20s, maybe 30. I was 17, just playing senior football, and he was the kind of guy you really feared. Was there anyone you were a pretty brash player, so maybe not at AFL level, but anyone you really feared on the footy field?
I remember the first time I was scared to line up on someone, and his name was Jed Lawton. And he was playing for Central Districts at the time, and I was playing for North Adelaide Reserves. So I was 15. He'd had a reputation of being a bit mad. He actually went up and coached in the Riverina League and was a very successful coach, for GAN Main. Won premierships, all of that, and was intimidating in the country after he left Central District. So he didn't quite make SANFL footy. I think he might have played, a little bit. But him being a man when I was 15, lining up on him and knowing that he had this crazy look, shaved head, and I remember him saying to me, "If you go near the ball," he said, "I'm going to knock your head off." And it didn't stop me going near the ball, and I still ran around and got a bit of the footy. But every time I went near it, there was a little bit of a thought there that that threat could come true. Thankfully it didn't, but yeah, he was one that I was scared when I sort of walked first. I didn't show it, I don't think, but certainly inside I was.
I guess that's the thing with country football, isn't it? You probably don't have the same protections that you maybe get at the top level because you can have some mad men out there.
Oh, well, I spoke at an event recently in the bush where we're talking about something similar, and one of the guys in the crowd came up, and he was an ex-umpire in Wagga, in the Wagga League, in the Riverina League and the Farrer League. And he said, "Well, as an umpire, there was only one person I was scared of, and that was your brother." And he said, "That's an umpire saying that." I'm not sure the umpire should feel scared of a player, but he said he just said, my brother intimidated a lot of people in that competition, probably a little bit of a bully, but he was one of those players that everyone feared in the bush.
Another one I got was from a mate of mine, actually. Sam, his name is. He's sent through a bit of vision, which I think I showed to you a few years ago. He was captain of Bond University up in Queensland. He's gone as skipper to do the toss of the coin. And this is a pretty serious competition. But before the coin has hit the ground, he's pointed to the end he wanted to kick to and tried to, con the umpires in a way, but he reckons he was taking it from you. He reckons you used to put the arm out before the coin hit the ground.
I reckon I tried to do it once. I learned it off Tony Shaw. reckon Shorey did that a few times, and just in trying to muck around. I think I did do it once, and I don't think I got away with it from memory. I do remember that I never called heads. I always said tails never fails.
Yeah.
I think I won most of them, but that moment when you leave that situation, so tossing the coin, running back to your team to give one last speech before you go to your positions, is probably the most daunting thing for a captain. And I've spoken to Paul Kelly and Stephen Kernahan and Michael Voss and these guys about it before, and they all agree. And some said that they just didn't know what to say, or they'd palm it off to someone else at different times. So it was one of those things you had to think about a little bit, and you didn't have something to say, so you'd always just go back to what the coach had said during the week, or reinforce some of the things you did at training.
Was it a different message every week? Same themes?
Well, you can't be inspirational every week. You think you can be, and you shouldn't. Surely by that stage of your preparation, you shouldn't have to be motivated.
Yeah.
That's when your anxiety is at its highest level. You're absolutely ready to go. That nervous energy that you have from that point to your position to that ball bouncing is a feeling like no other. Running onto the ground, different feeling again, just that adrenaline you get when the crowd roars or boos or whatever it does, and you come on, and so that adrenaline is different to that nervous energy as you're walking to your position. The great unknown, how am I going to play, who's going to pick me up, I want to get a kick. It's just all of those thoughts, some negative, then you flip them to positive, but it's just your thoughts and your mind are just going a million miles an hour about what or how you're going to go on that day. And then once that ball's bounced, everything changes. Then you're in player mode, and those nerves and everything just disappear, and you're into the game, and hopefully you get an early kick. If you get an early kick, you're on your way.
I find that really fascinating. Just on that topic, did you have any that you thought, that was a good speech, or geez, that was shit house? And did you think
you could tell by the reaction.
Was there anyone who never listened to you?
It's like, there would have been. Actually, Pikey probably for a
Martin
period.
Pike.
Yeah, Pikey mightn't have listened at different times. He did his own thing. There would have been a few, but it's all about reaction. It's a bit like when you're sitting there with your mates, having a cold one, or out to lunch or dinner or whatever it may be, and you crack a gag. When you've cracked a good gag, and if no one laughs at mine, I just hit them and laugh anyway. That's my go-to.
You force them, yeah. Last week was a big week on the podcast in terms of what you said about Alistair Clarkson. You made some comments in terms of his media performance and what you were reading into that about how he was going. Since then, he's stepped away from North Melbourne for an indefinite period to focus on his mental health. How do you view what you said now, knowing what you know now about Alistair?
Well, I think that what I was trying to say is I was seeing some cracks. He's always been defensive, which we spoke about last week. But those the pressure, you could see the pressure building on him. And I don't think that he would have made those comments that he made about Hawthorn, even, for instance, if he was in a good state of mind. And clearly he hasn't been for some time. Pretty incredible when you think about it, him going through what he's gone through, and to be able to front up to the media. And I don't know whether you've watched much of what the Kangaroos have been doing, but he fronts up for all their different campaigns, the non-gambling campaign and all that. And he's the face of, those different ads. And he fronts up to all the media at the start of the week. Doesn't palm it off. And he's been doing those questions and having to answer questions about what's going on, and then being beaten by 20, 15 goals, 10 goals. It's a pretty tough caper. So we all hope that Clarko gets back and he's the best version of himself, and this whole situation is sorted out for everyone's sake, because people are still forgetting there are other people out there that have been disgruntled through all of this. And yes, we care about Clarko, but there are other people involved that are also hurting. So we just want a resolution. That's what we want. So then everyone can move forward.
Well, on Clarko, it seems like you've just rediscovered. I mean, I'm obviously very serious about the Alistair situation. You've just rediscovered your Twitter password because you've had a bit to say recently. Some of it, quite risque, Wayne. But just
risque.
Yeah, one of them was on Alistair Clarkson. Once again, all those in the media that piled on Clarko now asking for justice. Hashtag weak as piss.
Oh, it's so many hypocrites. I like the hypocrisy in AFL media and media full stop. And you could sit here, maybe we might do a podcast on all those that are in the media that sit there in judgment of players that like a good time on a weekend. And there's plenty of people in the media that like a good time on a weekend. So, it's so interesting how, they sit there in judgment every week about and they make judgment, and people are guilty before proven guilty. And they sit there and do that. And I often find that the people that throw the stones generally have more to hide than the people that sit back and have a more level view. It's almost like it's their cover. They like to throw.
Are you going to name names here?
They like to throw people under the bus. Well, yeah, I think it's quite obvious for everyone to see those that sit in the moral higher ground and make comments. I think it's it's poor when we know that there are plenty of people that do things in their private lives that they don't want spoken about.
Well, I think you've probably enjoyed that more than most. A very serious ending to this week's show on the Truth Hurts, but you stay out of trouble before next week, Wayne. I know it's been
stay out of trouble.
Well, I'm just looking.
I've managed to. What are we now? 5 weeks? 6 weeks?
Since the headline?
And I've got a black eye. I've got a black eye.
Yeah. You're definitely taking an interesting look into the week, but I'm sure you'll get through it, and I'll see you again soon.